Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me so much pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of India Habitat Center and Professor Benoy K Behl. Today's talk is the 30th in his monthly series, Glimpses of Culture. Professor Benoy K Behl has spent 48 years lost in his mission of documenting the art and culture of India and of the whole of Asia. The result is a breathtakingly wide coverage, sensitively carried out. A new perspective emerges in which we see the deep connections between the art found in the many countries of the entire continent. We also see the philosophic basis of this art and the development of its traditions over the centuries. Perhaps this is Professor Behl's greatest contribution, providing us a vision with which the roots of this great art are traced and seen from earliest times. Recently, he has taken us to the earliest art in the Indus Valley and Maurya periods. Last month, he took us to the philosophic fundamentals of this art tradition, which were formulated by the 2nd century BCE. Today, he takes us to what is among the greatest groups of monuments in the world, the rock-cut caves of Western India from the 2nd century BCE onwards. In subsequent months, he will trace for us the development of Indian art over the centuries. Ladies and gentlemen, Benoy K Behl speaks to us today on Heart of the Mountain. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sujata Chatterji. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A great pleasure to be with you again to share another chapter of this unfolding book on the art history of India. Now, we had traced the roots back to the very earliest of times in the Indus Valley civilization. And we had seen there a unique culture, a culture in which archaeologists have not been able to find any evidence at all of any police or army. A most remarkable thing. From there, we had taken it forward and come eventually to the 2nd century BCE, in which the fundamentals of Indian art were well established. Fundamentals which continue till today, not only in India, but in countries which have been influenced by the Indian cultural traditions, for instance, all the way till Japan. And here we had seen the norms of art. We had seen the challenges which Indian art poses to itself. But the art of India has a stated purpose of revealing for us the truth which is beyond the ephemeral reality. In Indian philosophy, it is understood that the material world which we see around us is an illusion brought to us by the limitations of our senses and sensibilities. The purpose of the art is to lift the veils of this illusion to be able to see us what is beyond, what is true and eternal. And that is a great challenge which Indian art is constantly posing before itself. So we had seen this developing. We had seen the great stupa railings of Bharut and Sanchi in central India. And in the meantime, another great chapter was opening. This was the rock-cut caves of Western India and other places in the country. An absolutely fabulous chapter where great mountains were hewn, where rock-cut caves were hewn out of the heart of the mountain. And there were created these havens which were sanctuaries of peace, deep in the silence of the mountain, away from the noise and clamor of the material world. A devotee could come and lose himself. The only grandeur around him was the grandeur of the divine, the grandeur of the spiritual search. And it's magnificent how, in a period of about 1,000 years, there were more than 1,200 caves which were created. An absolutely fabulous heritage. And these caves were carved out of hard rock, unlike the caves which I have documented extensively in Central Asia and China, where they were made out of hills of conglomerates of rock and mud. These were all carved out of hard rock, made to last forever. And they were exquisitely carved. In fact, as you will see in this film, and it is to be remembered, that some of the finest art, some of the finest sculpture of humankind was made in these caves. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to take you today to the rock-cut caves of India. My many thanks to the India Habitat Center for this yet one more opportunity of sharing a glorious period of Indian art with you. My many thanks are owed to Doordarshan, who sponsored the making of this film, and so many others. In a world so taken up with commercial values and TRPs as far as the television setups are concerned, it has indeed been remarkable that over a period of so many years, Doordarshan patronized the making of by making deeply researched and extremely serious films related to art history. So my many thanks are owed to them. Sushant, I would request you to please run the film. Thank you so much.
It was the 2nd century BC, the Shunga period in Indian art. Great Buddhist stupas were being made at Bharut and Sanchi in Madhya Pradesh. Motifs and traditions which were to prevail in Indian art were being established. In the meantime, another great chapter of art was opening in Western India. For over 1,000 years from the 2nd century BC onwards, more than 1,200 caves were excavated out of the mountains of the Western Ghats. This tradition may have been inspired by the caves excavated in the 3rd century BC by Emperor Ashok and his grandson Dashratha at Barabar in present-day Bihar. Those were made for the Ajivikas, who were a deeply ascetic sect. While secular buildings were made of ephemeral materials like wood, that which was made in service to the eternal was carved in the heart of the mountain itself. The first phase of prolific excavation was from the 2nd century BC till the 3rd century AD. Great Buddhist prayer halls and viharas for the residence of monks were made under the rule of the Satavahanas and the Kshatrapas. Though these kings revered Hindu deities, they patronized all religious establishments. Individual sculptures and pillars were donated by merchants, bankers, gardeners, farmers, fishermen, housewives and others, including many who were Greek. These cave sanctuaries were all made on the caravan routes, which came from central India to the ports on the coast of Maharashtra. Perhaps it was the great prosperity on account of flourishing trade which made possible this era of magnificent rock-cut caves. Trade networks, both internal and with the Mediterranean, were expanding fast in this period. The Roman historian Pliny the Elder writes in 77 BC that Roman coffers were being emptied for buying too many fine textiles from India. At Bhaja, facing the valley of the Indrayani River in Pune district, are 22 rock-cut caves. The Chaitya or prayer hall here was made in the 2nd century BC. Chaitya means an object of worship. The stupa deep inside continues as the focus of devotion. The mortal relics of the Buddha had been enshrined in a number of stupas. For Buddhists, the stupa became the symbol of his passage from the world of illusion and pain to that of eternal bliss. A horseshoe-shaped arch dominates the facade of the cave. The shape was first made in imitation of wooden architecture in the Barabar caves. Soon it was to be a pan-Indian motif. The scale of the hall is impressive. Pillars which run along the walls of the cave provide a circumambulatory passage around the stupa. The pillars lean inwards in imitation of wooden architecture. Above, wooden ribs have actually been added to copy the appearance of free-standing buildings. Among the viharas here, cave number 18 is remarkable. On the right wall of the veranda are sculptural representations identified as Hindu deities. One shows a royal figure driving a chariot through the skies. The horses trample underfoot a large, misshapen demonic figure. This may be the earliest surviving depiction of Surya representing the sun, who vanquishes the demon of darkness. The panel on the right has been identified by some as the earliest known depiction of Lord Indra, who rides an elephant. As in other reliefs of the Shunga period, the carving here is not very deep. The style is very similar to the moulded terracottas of this period. As with other early Indian sculpture, these would originally have been covered with plaster and painted. In a secluded gorge of spectacular natural beauty, about 50 kilometers northwest of Aurangabad, are the caves of Pitalkhora. Part of the hill face has disintegrated, and the fronts of the caves have been lost. However, what remains shows that caves 3 and 4 here may have been the crowning glory of Buddhist art when they were made in the late 2nd century BC. Paintings of the 6th and 7th centuries AD in the Chaitya Hall, Cave 3, show that the cave remained in use for at least 800 years. The conception of the entrance of Cave 4 is grand. It is as if the weight of the cave rests on the backs of life-sized elephants, which have been made in the plinth. Above the entrance was made Lakshmi, embodying abundance. She is also depicted often in the railings and gateways of the contemporaneous stupas at Bharhut and Sanchi. On either side we pass two well-executed dwarpalas, or guardians of doorways. They are life-sized and appear wide-eyed and filled with youthful vigor. Among the many sculptures that have been found at the site is a grinning gunner, a dwarf, as is seen at Sanchi. An inscription states that he was the donation of a goldsmith, Kanhadas, which means servant of Krishna, the Hindu deity. At Bedsa, on the south face of the same range of hills as the Bhaja caves, is another magnificent site of excavations. The grand Chaitya is partly hidden from the profane world outside by a large section of the rock which has been left. In the Indic tradition, that which is important is always kept away from the glare of common sight. We have to make an effort to gain the joy and peace to be found inside. This magnificent Chaitya was made in the 1st century AD. These are the earliest seen pillars rising out of Purna Ghatas, or vases of plenty. From now on, this becomes a common motif of Indic art. On the pillar capitals, we see animals with riders, as are seen in the contemporaneous Sanchi stupa gateways in central India. It is a vision in which men, women and animals are in harmony with each other and the world around. The figures are self-assured. Side walls of the veranda have horseshoe-shaped arches, commonly termed as Chaitya arches. The interior, dimly lit by the jali window in the front, is simple. Leaving behind the profusion of images and sculptures, the heart of the mountain contains the stupa. The pillars around it and in the hall are plain. The devotee has travelled from the world of illusory shapes outside to be closer to the truth in all its simplicity. A small group of caves was excavated in the 1st century BC, overlooking the stream of Ulhas at Kondavane near Karjat. Despite its ruined state, the magnificent facade of the Chaitya exhilarates the visitor. The figures made here are delicately modelled and are graceful. There is a sense of natural ease in the depictions of these times. The men and women express emotions with freedom and warmth, not often seen in later representations. Next to the Chaitya is an impressive and spacious vihara. The ceiling has an elaborate imitation of a network of beams and rafters. On a high hill opposite the range which has the caves of Bhaja, A grand Chaitya and viharas were created in the 1st to 2nd centuries AD at Karla. This is the largest of all Chaitya to be carved out of the living rock. One must remember that these magnificent Chaitya are not architecture really, but sculpture on an epic scale. For the Indian artist, the rock contains, in its heart, the divine. It is for him to but remove that which hides the image from our sight, to reveal the sacred nature of the hill. One can imagine how vast the task must have been to create such rock-cut shrines. The cutting of the rock began from top to bottom and front to back, creating the spaces and leaving stone for pillars to be shaped later. Even as the stone was hewn to create the structures, the finishing of the walls and the carving of detailed sculpture was taken up. As at Bedsa, the facade of the cave is mainly hidden from the mundane world by a rock-cut screen. A recent shrine today further blocks the view. Outside the courtyard were 2 columns, of which one remains. On the side walls of the veranda are made large elephants, continuing the tradition seen at Pitalkhora. The facade has on it 6 couples larger than life and filled with robust vitality. These are the Yakshas and Yakshis who embody abundance and fertility of nature, the forces that ensure the continuity of life. They were seen individually in the gateways of the stupas of Bharhut and Sanchi. Here they have come together as mithunas, or loving couples. Their closeness to each other in natural affection symbolizes the completeness of the world, of the harmony of the natural order. These are idealized human forms, presenting the symbolic essence of human life at its most vital. They graphically display the quality of prana, or the inner breath of Indian art. The grand hall is 124 feet by 46 feet and rises to a height of 45 feet. The pillars along the sides have purn ghatas, or vases of plenty. The capitals have seated animals carrying human figures. The ones facing the central passage are superbly rendered elephants. Each carries 2 onlookers, usually a couple and sometimes 2 women. They are seated in a friendly embrace and display a rare warmth. Inscriptions record the names of numerous individual donors who paid for the carving of various parts of the cave and its pillars. Worship continued at the site for at least 400 years, and there are later sculptures of the Vakataka period. There are many small rock-cut caves on 4 hills close to Junnar in Pune district. These were excavated from the 1st century BC till the 3rd century AD. There are several viharas here, of which the largest is on Suleiman Hill. To the vihara's left is a Chaitya with an inscription of the 2nd century AD. It was the gift of a resident of Kalyana. Within the Borivali National Park in Mumbai is the Buddhist cave site of Kanheri. It provides a view of developments in Buddhist art for 1,000 years from the 1st century AD onwards. The Chaitya Cave 3 was excavated in the reign of King Satkarni in the 2nd century AD. It has a courtyard with a rock-cut fence. Like Karla, it has 2 pillars in front. One pillar has a representation of the Buddha, the earliest one in Western India. The style of the figures here has similarities with the contemporaneous sculpture of the Mathura region of North India. The men and women have the sense of the breath and the movement of life. They display individual postures and have gentle expressions. Colossal Buddhas, who are later additions to the Chaityas, are of the 5th or the 6th century. Later caves at this site present the pantheon of deities in the subsequent period of Buddhism. About 100 kilometers from Aurangabad, in a horseshoe-shaped gorge of the Vaghora River, are 31 rock-cut caves at the magnificent site of Ajanta. The caves were excavated in 2 phases, one around the 2nd century BC and the second around the 5th and 6th centuries AD. Cave 10 is the earliest Chaitya here and was made in the 2nd century BC. It has many similarities with other excavations of that period. The murals here are thrilling to see, as they are the earliest surviving paintings of the historic period in India. There are also paintings here which were made about 800 years later. Cave 9 is a Chaitya of the 1st century. The facade has figures of the Buddha which were added in the later period. In the meantime, in the 1st century BC, near the east coast of India, Jaina rock-cut caves were being excavated by King Kharavela in Orissa. These depict the pan-Indian spread of ideas and motifs at that time. The Rani Gumpha or cave is the largest and most elaborate excavation. The courtyard and 2 stories of cells provide a view similar to the much later Buddhist caves at Ellora in Western India. A new feature seen here are brackets incorporating figures. These were to become prolific in later Indian art. The arches above doorways imitate wooden forms and are similar to the arches seen at Buddhist Chaityagrahas of this period. There are narrative friezes sculpted at the entrance to the cells. These are deeply cut and present the sense of the overflowing abundance of the world, which was seen at contemporaneous Sanchi. The headdresses, ornaments, and the style of the figures is also very similar to that of the Sanchi Toranas or gateways. In the Shunga and Satavahana periods were formulated the themes and traditions of Indian art. There was a common artistic tradition and the same motifs in Buddhist and Jaina art. These included Yakshas, Yakshis, and the deity Lakshmi. While stupas with sculpted railings and gateways were made in central India, great rock-cut caves were excavated in the hills of western and eastern India. The exteriors had images of the life of nature. Deep in the silence of the mountain was simplicity itself. A symbolic representation of the escape from the illusions of the material world.
So that is the challenge constantly faced by the ancient art of India. The multiplicity of the forms of the world on the one side, and the desire to leave all this behind and to be able to meditate. Meditate and hopefully to find the meaning which is beyond the ephemeral forms. That which Indian philosophy considers to be beyond form, nirgun, without qualities as we understand them, arupa, without form. And this is being constantly addressed again and again with every opportunity the Indian artist has to present again and yet again that journey from the material world, hopefully, to that which is beyond. So while the stupa railings of the great stupas of central India were presenting us all these forms of the world, in the railings which were around, which were made around the stupas, here in Western India and in Eastern India, the great rock cut caves were presenting these forms of the world, which we had eventually to leave behind, to proceed towards that which was practically without form, where none of the distractions of the material world would beset us, where we would have in front of us the stupa, the plain, unadorned stupa. And that is the journey. In this film, we see the first half of this period of this truly glorious period of 1,000 years of the making of rock cut art. Magnificent carves, magnificent caves carved out of the heart of the rock with the most exquisite sculpture. And you would have noticed the quality of the art. You would have noticed the free and easy manner of the art. You would have noticed the people, perhaps as they were meant to be, easy and completely warm and affectionate towards each other and unabashed in their putting their arms around each other and holding each other and without consciousness. Marvelous, absolutely marvelous. There is scarce another instance in art history anywhere in the world where you come across such natural ease. In fact, I think a trip to Karla caves is a must for everybody to see these. And the Mithuna couples, the ease with which they stand together. And in later years, in later centuries to come, the Mithuna couples will start expressing their affection for each other in much more explicit ways. But here at this early stage, it is just enough for them to be together. It's just enough for them to touch each other. And the entire harmony of the natural order is communicated. And communicated so beautifully. You would also notice here and in all other centuries practically of Indian art, the similarity of expression, the similarity of motifs in Buddhist and Jain and in fact also Hindu art. It is a great philosophic tradition and it's a great artistic tradition which conveys it. And it's a shared artistic tradition. There were guilds of artists who painted and sculpted Buddhist, Jaina, and Hindu edifices. And you see a great shared culture. For the artist, it is his dharma is to create the art. It is for him to convey through the feeling of the art the sense of compassion, of caring, of grace. And it is believed in Indic philosophy that the moment we experience that grace, the moment of our aesthetic experience when we look upon that beauty in front of us, is a moment which is akin to Brahmanand itself, or the final bliss of salvation. So the artist is constantly creating so many different ways, with the warmth inside him, with the beautiful, subtle grace inside him, of creating that grace in front of us to help to transport us into that realm of grace. And truly, the ancient period provides such wonderful examples which later centuries will find difficult to emulate. But of course, they will. And there will be different means that will be found to convey the same themes. At this stage, if you were to please put any questions that you may have into the chat box, then Sujata will read them out for me. Thank you so much.
Before that, I'll take this opportunity to quickly tell you about our next film. It's going to be on February 24th, which is a Saturday, at 6 p.m. And the title of the film is Profusion of Life, Amravati and Nagarjunakonda. This is a film about the great stupa railings of the Eastern Deccan. So if you would mark it on your calendars, we would love to have all of you with us on 24th February, that's a Saturday at 6 p.m. And for those of you who weren't with us for the earlier sessions and who missed the earlier films on the journey to the roots of Indian art, you can watch them and catch them on our YouTube channel called Benoy K Behl. So yes, I shall now go to the comments and questions. There's Rajendra Khimesra saying greetings from Thailand.
Greetings to you, Rajendra. Such a pleasure always to remember meeting you in Bangkok.
Krishna Burli saying excellent presentation.
Thank you so much, Krishna, for a person of your spiritual evolution. It's always marvelous to see your responses. Thank you.
Cheng Sochiat saying so beautiful and so holy and so peaceful and the most serene places on earth that I cannot describe in words. So perfect.
Very kind of you to say that. It is in fact a reflection of the peace within yourself, the grace within yourself, that you are able to find it in this art. Thank you so much.
Sunanda, wonderful. We'll wait for more such presentations.
It will be a pleasure for me.
Sohan, thank you very much for presenting our Indian art to our present generation.
My pleasure always. It is a great heritage that we have, and it is a heritage which has so much relevance and importance for our lives always. in the present world. For our lives would be so enriched by experiencing the grace within us, and that grace would add so much to every moment of our lives. We really must continue to share it. Thank you.
Kat Mar, I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name. Thank you very much for this amazing film.
My pleasure. Thank you.
John Palka, was the stupa and the chamber in which it was located also painted elaborately, or were the walls very simple, even originally?
Yes. John, originally the interior of the hall which housed the stupa was plain and unadorned. The idea was, in fact, to first meet outside the hall the multiplicity of the forms of the world: human beings, men, women, children, plants, trees, fruits, animals, to see all these as we see in our lives every day, and see them in the context of the fact that they are only ephemeral shadows of the final reality, and eventually to leave all this behind and to go further, to go deep inside the hall, and there to have an object like the stupa only in front of us. Stupa whose lack of shape does not distract us by reminding us of any of the forms of the world or reminding us of our lives outside. And in that moment, to sit down and meditate, and perhaps one day be able to get closer to the understanding, to the knowledge of the fact of what is beyond all these shapes of the world which constantly distract us. What is beyond all the noise and clamor of the world which constantly distracts us. So you would be right in understanding that originally there would be no decoration or paintings inside the hall. Now, as time progresses, of course, things change, and particularly with when kings start patronizing temples and such like, stupas, etc. And people change when they require more and more distraction. Then you find more and more of the shapes coming in, more and more of the paintings coming in. But originally, the shapes, forms, paintings are all kept in the periphery. We leave them behind, go for the simple interior. Thank you.
Ajit Pratap Singh, thank you, sir, for enlightenment of our knowledge about history and arts.
Pleasure, Ajit. My pleasure.
There's somebody asking, saying, thank you, Benoy, for the magnificent film. I would like to know if any research has been done on the implements used to cut these rocks.
Well, they were basic implements like chisels. Of course, the important thing to understand is that unlike rock cut caves which were made in so many other parts of the world, including on the Silk Route, which were made out of much softer rock conglomerate. These were selected to be made out of hard rock, mainly basalt. And the purpose was that they were meant to last forever. And very, very fine, very, very delicate work was somehow done out of this very hard rock. Shows the dedication, perseverance, and great application, the great devotion of the sculptors. Thank you.
That's about it till now. Would you like to tell the group about our upcoming course?
Well, yes, for 4 years since the beginning of the pandemic, I had stopped giving the concise course on Indian art history and appreciation in person, which I used to give quite regularly, particularly on behalf of India Habitat Center. But it has been decided now to renew that. I've decided that I must also come out of the cave and come out again and meet people and share knowledge in person also. So the 6th and 7th of April has been selected to be the dates on which the 2-day course will be given again. It will be a Saturday and Sunday. And I hope that you will come and enjoy it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sushant. My many thanks again to India Habitat Center. Thank you all so much.